not that dark. Good evening, witches. Good evening, witches. Welcome to Planetary Energies, week 2. We'll be with you momentarily.
All right. Oh, let's do a little cheers.
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 To the intention of
Another fabulous meetup.
another fabulous meetup.
Another fabulous meetup where we just kick ass.
Kicking ass and taking so many names.
Making friends.
You let people in.
I did. There you go.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's happened. So that's that thing. Okay, so we're starting at Saturn.
We can
Okay,
talk
we're
because I can hear us. So you want to turn that off?
What? We
People can hear us, so you're
Yeah,
good with that?
Yeah, of course.
We're starting with Saturn.
We started early, you guys. No rush to come online. Just Kat and I did our sign on, and we're gonna go over our notes. You can listen, grab a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever you want. Get your notebook.
Go to the Meetup page and download
Oh.
tonight's documents. There's a lesson plan there and the quick guide.
The quick guide is filled out the rest of the way.
And your planetary energies have now
Mhm.
Saturn, Uranus, Neptune,
and Pluto.
and Pluto.
Can you say all the planets in order?
I can't.
Yeah.
No.
Shit.
I can't say Venus, Mercury, Mars.
No.
Venus, Mars.
No.
What?
Mercury. Venus.
Well, Venus is so bright out in the sky.
I know it
But
is.
it's the first one.
It's right now in our night sky it goes like it
Oh,
actually
see, I thought I had it
Jupiter.
right. I'm gonna study
closest
this.
to the sun. Yeah, like if
Oh,
we're going
close.
from the sun.
from the
out.
sun. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I was just
sorry.
thinking about the other night how I went and looked at in the sky and I knew that super bright star out there and they were all lined up
Yes.
so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
nicely.
It goes Jupiter, Venus, Mars, Saturn right now in the sky.
What? I thought it was Venus.
Mm-mm.
1, 2, 3, and then
No.
way out far was
'Cause
Saturn.
The second one is super bright. That's Venus. Venus is known
Okay.
as the morning and evening star.
All right. Have you
Okay.
guys been looking at the sky? Oh, I haven't let them in. 2 people entered the waiting room.
Well, there's one person there.
Okay. All right.
Private time.
Evening witches, we're going over our notes. We're going to start in a few minutes. If you haven't been to the meetup event for tonight, I just uploaded the lesson plan and the quick guide, the Planetary Energies quick guide. Both of those have been updated from last week. I think if you were to click on last week's link, it would still be the same thing.
It'd be the same.
It would be the
Yeah.
same, but just to
updated.
let you know that we've updated, completed. Jamie House, she worked for about 6 hours today. Here at my kitchen table.
It's not a kitchen table. It's
Dining
not-
room table.
Dining table, yeah.
Oh, excuse me, the dining room table. We're fancy like that.
She's got
We're
two
some
tables.
fancy witches. So anyway, those documents have been updated for tonight. And we're going over our notes and we're going to get started in a few minutes. So
Yes.
hi, Joan. Hi, Jess. Hi, Mercury. So good to have you back. And Kim, love to see your smiling face. And Luzmilla. Am I saying that right? Luzmilla.
And Zahara.
And
Zahara.
Luzmilla. Okay. So glad you guys are all here. We'll get started in just a minute. All right. What was the question?
No, I think I just really skipped on the retrograde for Saturn. I guess because I know some about it, then I just stopped writing, which is not great because it's not like you're gonna riff on that.
No, I'm not going to be riffing.
No, I know.
I'm not going to be riffing.
You're not gonna rip it?
I'm not going to riff.
on.
Jamie is the riffer.
I
I am not the riffer. I don't have I can't even say my planets in order yet, y'all. Can you? Raise your hand. Can you say your planets exactly in the right order?
From the
In
sun
order from the
out.
sun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Center of our
Yeah.
solar
So
system.
no, I
out.
don't have that, but I am working on learning. So,
Yeah.
you know.
You can name all the planets.
Oh, yeah. I just can't name them in order.
That's just because I'm a sciencey nerd. That's probably the reason I
She's
can't.
the nerdy witch.
I'm very
That's for
nerdy.
sure.
I know.
She's the nerdy witch.
I feel appropriate in my glasses tonight.
She's totally appropriate in her glasses. Joan, you and Jamie are looking like you're feeling the same vibe tonight with the glasses going on. I almost thought I should wear mine too, but then I'm like, oh, let her be the superstar. Why not?
Oh, thank you, Mom.
The superstar. Yeah.
Jeez. You know what? Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I like being a superstar.
I like you to be the superstar, and I'm a superstar's co-host.
You were a superstar for 13 weeks, mind you.
Oh my gosh, that was so fun.
Did you guys know that on our YouTube channel, right? So we just really record these meetings and then post them on YouTube for our members. But Kat's first video where she was so nervous.
I was so nervous. If any of you were there, I was probably
funny.
You could probably hear it.
Hyperventilating.
Yeah, you could probably hear it in my voice.
And then we're gonna go to bed. We're gonna bed. She was reading really fast. It was so cute. But her first video is our highest viewed YouTube video because it's called the
Book of Shadows.
It's like Witches series, New Beginner Witch series, or something very similar. But yeah,
Beginner Witch series, week
series,
1, Book of Shadows. Yes.
And it has like 300 views. I'm just saying. So she shouldn't be nervous and talking about, she's the co-host, the superstar co-host.
Well, so I don't know about you guys. How much when you go to do any kind of witchy stuff, witchcraft stuff, how much are you going to your reference books and looking it up? And how much do you have up here? It's up here that I'm Joan's shaking her head. She feels me. Because if you're newer to this, if you are newer to witchcraft, then remembering all of it takes time. And also you have to use it or you don't remember it. So you're constantly looking things up, which is really not a bad thing, I don't think, because
it's why we create our personal grimoires and Book of Shadows. It's why we do that.
Exactly, which may be why my first week of the Beginner Witch series, Book of Shadows, is our most popular to date video.
It's what we got.
So everybody is interested in that, which is interesting because people want to know about Book of Shadows and what goes on. Oh my,
that's
Tanky.
He sees somebody.
Hey, get off that couch.
Oh, you're on the couch.
Get down.
Oh, Chris.
Oh my gosh. Who is that? No.
Okay.
It's not Amazon. Amazon's already been here.
Okay, thanks. Bye. There was actually a person here.
I bet it's those solar energy people. Was it the solar guy?
I don't know. He's super young, holding one piece of paper under his arm.
Yeah. So
yeah,
those are the.
He sounded like he was from Minnesota.
Yeah, those are the people who are trying to put solar on all of our houses here.
You got that guy.
So,
you sure
anyway,
did.
as we were saying, what we were talking about was what I was asking is for those of you who are just joining while Jamie's looking up a couple of things for our meeting tonight is for those of you who are new, and I'm assuming you are because you're in the New Witches Meetup group, how much, when you go to do any kind of energy work or spell work or witchy anything pretty much, how much are you having to look up stuff? For me, as a newer witch, like many of you, I don't have it ingrained in my brain. This one, Nerdy Witch, and also she absorbs all that kind of stuff. She just loves it and she reads it one time and then she remembers it.
That's true.
And you know why? It's because she has super glasses. So those
you can't get them on Amazon.
It's kind of like a cape, kind of like Superman's cape.
This is my magic powers right here.
Yeah, magic powers. Yeah. So anyway, it's 7:33, so we need to get started in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
We chit-chatted enough.
Okay.
Hope everybody has a refreshing beverage.
No, we've not been drinking
And you are ready for
like
tonight's, meetup. So we're really happy to have you guys here. Back with us again.
And if you have to leave early, something I'm going to say at the end of the meeting, but I'll say it now too. Tomorrow is Mercury retrograde, and we did discuss Mercury retrograde already. And if you go to the meetup and download the little sheets, you can find out about Mercury retrograde, how to handle the energy, things you can do for that. We go through all the retrogrades of the planets here, and they're nothing to be afraid of. It's more like how to use their energy for good.
Yeah, that's the first thing I was going to say is
Yeah.
don't freak out. Mercury retrograde, despite what you may read in the tabloids
It's an
and stuff.
opportunity.
Yeah. Isn't everything though?
Isn't everything. Okay.
Isn't everything
quick
an
thought
opportunity?
then.
Yeah.
The other day, I always say like, thank you, universe, when I'm going somewhere and I get a green light, right as I'm like pulling up, I'm like, oh, thank you, universe. That's awesome. And I thought to myself, it's less like us to thank the universe when we get roadblocks. Like, ooh, thank you, universe, for that red light. Maybe
it's saving
you
for something.
think you don't think down that road of like how that could be helpful. We often don't think about how the negative things grow us and turn us into something better while we've been given a time to stop, take a look, pause, reflect, whatever it is, and then move
Slow
forward
down.
with care.
Slow
Yeah,
down.
exactly.
And practice patience, which is something that
Patience.
is something now that I'm, yeah, it's a thing with me. Okay, I admit it, but I'm working on it. So those periods of time
As we all do.
when things seem to be not really quite going my way, I'm in a hurry or something, and I hit all the lights. I'm like, well, this is a good time for me to take a breath and be like, how much faster am I going to get there anyway? So, and practice patience.
Yeah. What are you losing by not getting there fast?
Yeah.
So people are always like, I got to get there quick to do what?
All right.
Okay.
It's 7:35 and we are going to get started. In case you don't know where you are, you're at the New Witches Meetup. This is the second week of Planetary Energies, and
Yes.
take it away,
Oh,
Nerdy
gosh.
Witch.
So we went through Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. I did that slow for Kat's benefit. And we are on to Saturn. So the unique thing about tonight is that we're going to be switching from the known planets, which Saturn was a known planet 4,000 years ago. There's recordings of people's knowing that there's a Saturn, right? Maybe it wasn't named the modern day Saturn until 2,000 years ago, but Saturn was there. It was being observed. It was being watched because these were all planets that we could see with the naked eye. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So those planets have been known, their energies of being have been studied and followed and tracked for 4,000 years. Because tonight, later, we're going to get into planets that were only discovered in the last 200 years and sort of what that means for their energies and how we keep discovering new things about them or assigning them new possibilities. But first, our very last planet that was known to our ancient peoples, Saturn. So if you're looking at the notes, I have it split up into like the facts of Saturn, some energy, the retrogrades, how to handle the energy, and then if you're born under this retrograde. So when you look at your birth chart and you can see that you're born under a retrograde, I don't want you to freak out about it. It's not too bad. It just means that there's an area of life that you may need to focus on. So the Saturn facts. Back in the day, Saturn was the slowest moving planet. Now we have Pluto, who's the slowest moving planet. But this was at the time of being named, it was the slowest moving planet, which helped give it its name because it was the father of time. That's one of the archetypes that's listed in our quick reference guide. It was also known as a sky god planet because Saturn was the father of Jupiter. So Jupiter comes first, then Saturn. So that's another reason why Saturn got its name. It's also known as the planet of death or life and death cycles because they thought it was the end of the universe, not solar system. So that was where life ended and could start over. So this is all the elements that sort of bring in this Saturn energy as we talk about it. Because if you're going to think of the end of something, it's very important to remember that there'll be rebirth and life. So anything that's death, rebirth, life, I think of Scorpio and I think of Phoenix, the Phoenix rising, because that's the cycle that just keeps repeating itself. From the ashes we rise. Saturn sort of also gave like prelude to our holidays where we would watch the earth die and then come back to life. So this is another cyclical thing that we could see was visible in our world here on Earth and that we assigned into the stars. So Saturn is the Roman god of agriculture, and it's just believed that the god Saturn came down to Earth and taught people agriculture and farming. which I love that because that definitely connects with all the holidays where we're really celebrating the harvest, the end of harvest, the dying of the earth, and then the rebirth of the earth. So it makes perfect sense that the last planet that they recognized was that cyclical in a way that's like death and rebirth. I don't have these memorized, so I am reading tonight.
You're doing great for somebody that's reading.
Thank you. Well, once I see like a key word, I'm like, oh yeah, that. Okay, so I love to describe the pictures or the symbols. When you do your birth chart, oftentimes they don't list the names inside the chart. It's a lot of lines and then little glyphs, little pictures of signs, okay? So Saturn, if you're looking at our notes, Saturn's little glyph, its little picture, is actually like the inverse of Jupiter's. It is the Jupiter. Yeah, it doesn't look the same, but it's very similar.
There we go.
Yeah.
So that little symbol
little symbol of Saturn. Jupiter's is like upright and it looks like a number 4 with like a squiggly crescent on the side. So Saturn's glyph is it shows the cross of matter. So we talked about last week. Anytime that there's a cross, this represents matter. Anytime there's a circle, this represents spirit. Excuse me. And it's representing that physical matter is over the top of this crescent side. So where Jupiter has its matter cross and its crescent is over here rising above the physical elements for expansion, Saturn's crescent is actually on the side. So you're going below. So think about it like the underworld or dying, because this was the planet of death and then rebirth. So that's why Saturn is basically Jupiter's symbol inverse. And that was all that I was going to say about that, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so Saturn energy, what can we expect when we're looking at our charts and we want to work with Saturn energy, like if it's in a spell or if you want to call on this energy to bring something into your life? This is the planet of like time and matter, which all have limits on them. Okay, so when we consider time and matter, everything has a limit. Your life can only go so far, things can only last so long. Change is inevitable, which we'll get into in other planets. But right now, Saturn, and the way that I really think about it is because Saturn has the most visible belts. There are other planets with belts. Saturn being known for its belts, it's the tightening of the belt. It's like buckling down on something, limits and restrictions. How can we, if we do have this life, let's make the most of it. Let's not be frivolous. Saturn is all about that energy. It's an authoritarian figure. It's a father figure. It's bringing in rules that make our world known to us in an easier, safer way. So where people mostly think about Saturn as being like this restrictive, destructive, like, oh, doomsday planet when it shows up, it's not, but it is telling you to button down, really look at what's going on, have structure, analyze your structures, and so use it in a way that builds your life up. Imagine kids on a playground. There's a scientific study or a psychological study where kids on a playground, they always ran to the edge where the fence is. They played along the fence. They were on the fence. When schools took out fences because somebody thought that that was really restrictive and that it made kids look like they were in prison or jail, kids stayed so much closer to the equipment because their boundary line was no longer defined. So they were actually afraid to test the limit and go to the outskirts of places because they weren't sure where they were safe at. So boundaries do create safety. So when we think about Saturn, think about boundaries that can create safety in your life. So with Saturn, I want you to think about limits that help you grow. And I know that seems like an oxymoron, right? That's what that is, an oxymoron, like set a limit so you can
jumbo
grow.
shrimp.
Yeah, exactly, jumbo shrimp. So when we set a boundary that'll allow us to grow, it cannot just be on ourselves where you restrict your intake of high calorie food or you restrict yourself to not doing, super intensive hardcore drugs that ruin your life or whatever it is. But there's these boundary setting things, getting into relationships, not dating bikers, whatever your rule is. You set that rule so that you know that you can have a happier and healthier life. And that's Saturn's energy. So if you struggle in places with boundaries and you know that you are always choosing the wrong boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, job, working environment where you're being used and abused and nobody's respecting you, Saturn is an energy that you really want to call on to help you build you personally. This is the last of the individual planets too that work with your individual energies. You want to call that in to help you build that healthy boundary.
So you can think of the rings around Saturn as a boundary.
As boundaries, yeah.
Yeah.
Healthy boundaries to keep in what's good and keep out what's bad necessarily. But you have to be the one that makes that choice. See, the thing about Saturn, when there's a Saturn return every 27 to 29 years, the reason it turns your world upside down is because it looks at your structures and it goes, okay, we've given you all this time on the planet to figure stuff out under your stars. And if you didn't, now it's going to feel like havoc because you've been living an unauthentic life. You haven't been living your highest purpose. So the reason why people at the end of their 20s and into their 30s start having these changes of hearts, trying to change their life, is because the universe sends them so much shit that they're like, oh my God, something's wrong. I need to change this. Obviously, I'm not living right. Things aren't easy. I need to find a better way. That is Saturn energy right there.
So I can think back because I'm 64. So Saturn has returned to my orbit twice in my life. A lot of you are probably younger. Maybe you've had one of this, but right around 30, I made a major change in my life. And then right around 60, I made a major change in my life. And I did not know that it was driven
Saturn's return.
by Saturn's return, but I believe now that it absolutely was, because when I think about how the change that I made, the things that were going on, like, I won't divulge those because they're very personal, but you can imagine, you've lived any period of time where you're like, here, this year you're one person, and then the next year you're like, I'm not going to be that person anymore. I want to be a different person. I want to be elevated from that person. So it's literally, it's a big deal, and it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over a period of time, but I can attest to that. And what's really interesting, Jamie did a little chart for our family to show, when the planets,
when Saturn
returned for everybody. And then it's like, what was happening in those years. And it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
She could chart hers because she's got a great memory. I'm like, what did happen in 1994? I got divorced. I left an a-hole husband. So that was a big deal. I mean, that was my security with him.
It was 6 to 8 years, something like that, right?
6 years that I was with him. And, it was really scary because I depended on him financially. And I just decided that right about that time that I'd had enough of his controlling ways and his temper and all of the things that were so negative for me and my kids. And I left. And you remember what I said when I left?
I'd rather live under a bridge.
I said a tree.
I think it was bridge.
I said, I'd rather live under a tree than keep living with this a-hole.
And we were ready. We're like, Mom, we support you. We'll live under that tree with you. It's no problem.
So it's a big time. So any of you who, I don't know, age-wise, look back. If you're looking back on 30 or you're looking back on 60, just see what was happening around those times. And it's not always 30 and it's not always 60. It's a couple of years span.
Yeah, it's between 27 and 29. But what the return is, this is not a retrograde. The Saturn return means that where your Saturn was when you were born, the sign it was in when you were born, it returns to that sign. It takes it 27 to 29 years to return to your sign. So I'm a Saturn in Libra, and I had my return in 2009. I was born in 1981. So that lets you know that mine was definitely 28-ish. But your return lasts for 2 years. So you may start making your transition just before that time because the energy is building for you and you already know it's already coming. The universe is like coming down on you. And then during that time, it may take you 3 years to really do the whole transformation. So your full transformation could happen just after your Saturn's out of your sign. But it's within those important years that you realize you want to change, you do something about it, and you like take off in a different direction, selling all your stuff and like,
moving to Florida. I want to answer Bree's question really quick. Bree, you can find the lesson plan and the planetary guide links in tonight's meetup.
Yes.
If you go to tonight's meetup, those links are there. They'll take you to a Google Drive and you can download those and they'll be there forever. So anyway,
if you guys want to see the transits of Saturn, because it's just a long chart, all you have to do is find when you were born. You don't even have to know your time of birth or anything. You can find where you were born and what Saturn was in, and then you'll go down the list and see when Saturn has returned. And the link is in the notes in the meetup. It's the top one. Oh, no. it's the transit table. It's the second link for each planet. Will show you the transition of the planets. So not even knowing your time of birth, you can still figure out what the planets were in, what sign they were in when you were born.
I think that's really important because
It is really important,
not
yeah.
everybody has access to their time of birth. So another question we have, and I'm just going to, is it correlated to confidence? I see self-control makes us aware of the need for self-control, but what about confidence?
It's not confidence. Confidence would be Jupiter and Mars. So
Okay.
that would be.
All right, Devin.
Yeah.
So that answers that question. Okay, moving on.
Okay.
So we talked about retrogrades. And
So just so you know, Saturn does retrograde every year or so for 4.5 months, 5 months maybe. And when these retrogrades hit, you're going to think that some situations feel unbearable, that you're being controlled in. Like during a non-retrograde of Saturn, you're totally fine being sort of like micromanaged. But when it's in retrograde, all of a sudden these things are like under a microscope and you're like, what the F? Why is this person always trying to tell me what to do all the time? Like every day I can't do anything. I can't think for myself. That's when it's really going to be brought to your attention. These are times for change. You handle this energy of that retrograde by looking at your support structures. Support structures meaning like how you're living your life, your housing situation, your financial income, your relationships, whatever structures you have that hold your life together. And then asking yourself, are they sound? Is this good for me? Why am I keeping this together? Like with Kat's situation, realizing that the relationship, she was dependent on it monetarily, but she knew how much it was not good for her. She had to finally make a decision and break. Be interesting to know if there was a retrograde before that happened, but because Saturn moves in and out of those retrogrades, and you make up your mind and then you just do something about it.
And I did, you know what, actually, and I know exactly when I made up my mind, so I could go back
serious?
and look at that.
Yeah,
I could literally go back and look at the precise month that I decided I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm out. And David tells us that it's the Saturn. He believes Saturn is the reason why he and his wife sold everything and live on a boat in Florida now. It's like, hey,
yeah.
So it's real, y'all.
So looking at your plans, do they make sense for you? Looking at your structure, like where you're going with your life. That's what Saturn retrogrades, not the returns, but the retrogrades, which happen often. They give you a chance to really analyze the structures in your life. Do your plans make sense? Is your big life picture being realized? And then to make changes. So the way to make changes in a Saturn retrograde is to what? Buckle down. Got to get that buckle in.
Well, another thing I think about is boundaries. At that point, I set this boundaries like, you're not crossing this line anymore, ex-husband. I'm done.
Yeah.
So,
So the one message that it's really positive about the retrograde from Saturn is like, it's never too late to get it right. That's why the retrograde with Saturn happens so often, because we do allow ourselves to get into situations that are not healthy for us. It's a learning experience. It's not something that you should beat yourself up over. It just gives you opportunities, every year and a half, roughly, when it goes into retrograde, to say, hey, here's another chance to get this right. And the universe will be supporting that. The universe will be saying like, yes, if you double down on this, we're right here with you in that energy. So then I have a born under this retrograde. And because we have so much information tonight, you guys, I'm going to let you read that yourself. So if you figure out that you are born under a retrograde Saturn, there are notes in here on how to deal with that. Moving on to Uranus.
or as you told me, what can we call this? Planet nest.
Planet nest. Yeah. So it's funny the way that it was named, that
Uranus.
It's not
Uranus.
It's not Uranus.
It is not that. But how many times have you heard that in your lifetime? I heard it a lot.
So many times. Like,
because I mean, literally, like it says Uranus in it.
It's more like Uranus. That's what,
well, yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Uranus.
So big joke. Nobody liked to say it out loud in science class. Nobody knew how to say it. Nobody taught us. They just kind of like let us fumble and thought it was hilarious. But Uranus is the first planet that was discovered in the modern age. So I told you guys, now we're going to talk about the 3 planets that were discovered in the last 200 years, which does give way to their energy not being individual for people, but really being societal, being worldly. It's these much bigger concepts. So if you want to work with Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto, it's big changes in your community. This is not just about individual changes.
On the world, even.
Community, world, whoever
exactly.
you associate with, identify with, like, this is all bigger mind stuff. When you use the energies of the next 3 planets, you're really not trying to do anything selfishly for yourself. You're making a change for you that really impacts a greater number of people. So with
Roe v. Wade.
It's like the 3rd time I heard that today.
Roe v. Wade.
So Uranus is the first and only planet named after a Greek god and not a Roman god. So that's something to consider, that in all the years since they had the planets named, and somebody in 1781. In 1781, when they actually like realized this is a true planet and yes, we're naming it, they thought, well, holy hell, nobody's named a planet in so long. Where are we going to go with this? So a Greek name was sought out. Uranus is the name. It is another god of the sky. So you've got Jupiter, you've got Saturn, you've got Uranus now, all with that same theme of being lords over the sky, because people kept thinking it was going to be the last, biggest, best one. So this is why you'll find energies that really blend through the 3. So as you choose an energy to work with, just remember that you have choices for highest planet, or when it was the last one and what got assigned to it in its energies. So I want you guys to think about in 1781, what was happening. Our country became a country in 1776. And I know this is not history class, but it's important because what Uranus then stood for was rebellion. This is the planet of rebellion. And this time in the entire world, people were rebelling from the common, normal stuff, leaving countries that they've been in forever, seeking new land, seeking new ideas, building new communities, wanting equality. Uranus stands for that. That's why the date of its, implementation as a planet is important in my eyes, because it really lets you know what energy this planet has. I didn't say over to you. Did I?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And one of the reasons why you can see that this is a modern named planet, as much as we started understanding ourselves in the late 1700s, early 1800s, the things that we were going through now became what our modern witches and our modern people of like home sciences, not like educational sciences. These were women who found out there was a planet named, and what would it represent within our circles? How would we use this energy? What does this new sign in the sky mean for us? And that was one of the things that they gave it was, as we've come to understand our own world and our place in it, we want to have something in the sky that represents what we're trying to move towards. And Uranus is that rebellion against the norm, about being held down, about being confined. Uranus is all about breaking free, setting off in your own direction, moving to a new country even. It kind of upheavals everything. So it's progressiveness. Okay, it's the planet of rebellion, but in the name of
enlightenment,
progression.
Progressiveness, objectivity, and novelty.
So you guys remember how I told you that Saturn is the inverse to Jupiter? Well, Uranus is the inverse to Venus. Not completely, but it's the circle with the cross that's known as like the symbol for Venus. Now it has 2, I call them ears, but 2 crescents on the other side.
Wait. Oh, well, you have 2 symbols on there. One that looks like.
I know. So old and new.
There you go.
I want people to know that
showing you guys the little symbol. There's 2 symbols there for Uranus.
And it just depends on who you follow on what you'll see. The symbol that I use is the one that looks way more like a technical glyph of some kind, not the circle with the arrow for Mars. So the other one, what I find really important for me is that this is the symbol of Venus, but it has 2 crescents on either side of it. And what does that remind you of? The triple moon goddess. Yes. So sign of Venus, moons all around, like crescents and everything. But this is elevation into another realm and understanding things that other people can't see. For me, that's intuition. That's our women's intuition. That's our finding our place in the world. And it started way back then when we started discovering things that all men knew were true. And then guess what? They're wrong. And they had to start admitting they were wrong early on. And the more that people find out the things they don't know, the more they're willing to accept the things that other people tell them could be true also, which is for us, our witchcraft, like our belief in spirit and intuition. So that's what Uranus really holds for me, especially in the glyph for it. The crescent moons on the side is receptivity. So this is like intuition, of course. That's what the crescents mean on all of the signs within astrology. But the energy of this planet, I think I already said, was rebellion. Okay, so I'm going back over stuff. This is the planet that's electrified with change, you guys. If you want change, if you want big change, I don't mean like small habit change, I mean big change. Uranus is the planet for that. The motto of our country when we were being built, I don't know if anybody knows this. I just found this out today, but I thought it was perfect. Join or die. Tell me how much like rebellion is that. It's like come into this bigger idea or you will not exist anymore. You will be wiped out. And I'm not thinking necessarily of dying and killing, but I mean like the thought process, the old ways. You know, even thinking back to like slavery and the way that we used to get people from other lands and bring them to places, the way we started out.
What about this whole fiefdom, serfdom thing that was going on in Europe at that time where, you know, people were escaping that?
I don't know what that is.
That's when the lands were owned by the serfs, by the lords, and everybody worked the land, and they basically just worked the land to survive.
Yeah.
Just barely, and they gave everything that they did to the lords that owned the land, and they really had nothing. They had no property. They worked to survive, to live, to eke out a living. So yeah, that was huge in Europe, and probably one of the reasons that people left England and fled to a free land, you know, land of the free. So
without rebellion, we can't change the status quo. And that's really what this represents. And the join or die statement is, I'd rather die standing than live on my knees or something. There's a statement somewhere. It's probably a movie. But it's very close to this energy of like wanting to get out there and change things for the better and not taking any shit along the way. That's Uranus for you. So as much as people make fun of the name, it's actually a really powerful energy to work with as a planet because it means universal shift. As we've come into, it's known as like the modern planet, first off. So anything that's done that's new age, this is the new age planet. You'll hear it referred to as that. But it's like a rebel without a cause. It's like I rebel just because everything's so complacent and normal that I need change. I want to break free of this stuff.
That was me.
Oh, rebel without a cause? You didn't? I thought you had a cause.
When I was young, it was rebel without a cause.
No cause.
Just because.
Okay.
So
with Uranus energy also, you really capture this because intuitively you want to. You know there's more. That's something about the receptivity. Yeah, we'll go with that. The receptivity, the crescents on the side, it's about the receiving of the message from the universe,
they're like antenna. That's what they remind me. It reminds me of a radio signal tower thing.
People think of it as a satellite.
Yeah,
like
satellite.
Image.
Yes, satellite. Yeah.
And so when we think about satellites, are they like one person to one person? No, you're trying to connect with the divine. You're trying to connect with the universal energy of like how to get us as a human species to the next level. On to retrograde. So that was a lot about Uranus. I'm obviously like super.
She loves Uranus, y'all. She does. So, okay, retrograde. Can I step away for 1 second?
Yes. Retrogrades. So the Uranus retrogrades do happen about once a year. And it's really about the fear of change. So when Uranus is in retrograde, people start to become afraid of change and they start wanting to like not move forward. They're like, whoa, that's scary. Let's just do what's safe and normal. So when you experience a Uranus retrograde, that might be one of the things where you were getting ready to take on this new opportunity and then all the fear sets in. Ways to deal with that? Continue to shake things up, continue to take risks, get outside of your comfort zone, figure out for you like what it means to be a rebel in your own eyes. I'm not saying you need to join anything too crazy or sell all your stuff and like move to Ecuador. I'm just saying you should do something that makes you uncomfortable so that you can grow. If we stay in the same place, in the same garden bed forever, we never get to be anything different than what that environment allows us to be. So this is where you can step out of your comfort zone, put yourself in a new environment, and just be open to all of the, I want to say chaos, like all of the change. Go to an Airbnb place that you've never heard of and don't know anything about, and just like see what happens and what's there. Have no real agenda.
It's one of the, I've never understood people who live and die in the same town. I was like,
Oh, yeah, that makes me really
wow,
sad.
how do you just do that and be satisfied? I don't know. Anyway, but that's what that reminds me of, talking about that.
Yeah, because without,
And no offense, if anybody has lived in their town their whole life and never left, I'm sorry if I offended you, but
no,
I
this
just-
is a call out to get you to leave that town for a little bit. Actually, it's not
explore.
sorry.
It's a big old
It's-
world out
it's
there.
Get out there and take those chances and talk to people that you may never have before.
Yeah.
For me, I traveled to a lot of different countries, and when I was there, I just tried to fit in with the culture. I wanted to learn about the culture, what people did, what they ate. I didn't always like everything. I'm like, oh, well, at least I tried it. In Korea, you guys, I ate bugs like multiple times. I tried.
And she has the most interesting stories too to tell,
mean-
like stories for days. So that's one of the things that leaving your little comfort zone gets you is experience, new people and
new places,
and stories to
animals,
come back with.
food. Yeah, just so that you don't have to feel small. So if we feel small in our own garden, if we're comfortable there, how much can you really grow? What can you learn about yourself when everybody around you is giving you the same advice, compliments, pushing you to the same goal? There is not a lot of learning abilities within that. You don't stretch outside, you don't go beyond the boundaries seeking anything if it's really comfortable. So we urge you to get uncomfortable. That's what the retrograde is all about. Again, if you're born under a retrograde of Uranus, it's in the sheet. Look it up to find out. It does happen like every other year. So the probability is like 50%, I guess, that you were born. I was not. Kat wasn't.
Oh,
Do you remember your retrograde? Do you know? I'm Mercury retrograde born.
I don't remember. I have it written down. but
Mars,
I don't
something.
remember.
Yeah, I wrote it down too for you.
Taurus, I think.
I'm gonna let you do Neptune. I'm gonna take like a breather, and I'm gonna hand it over to Kat.
Okay.
Okay.
And,
Love Neptune. It's actually my planet. Well,
okay,
Pisces,
so
anyways.
Neptune is named for the Roman god of the sea. Neptune takes 164 years to orbit the sun. So we're only going to see that maybe once in our life, maybe never.
No, never. We're never living to 164.
Okay. So, okay.
But like we'll see half of the transit.
It's never coming back in our lifetime until.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that we would see it once, but it would never return back around.
It would never
That's
return back to our
Okay,
sign. So
right,
there's no
okay.
like Neptune return yet.
There's no Neptune returns. Okay. Completed its first rotation.
Since discovery.
It was discovered in the mid 1800s.
Yeah.
And since then, it has completed one rotation, and that was in 2011.
It finally came back full circle in 2011 since we discovered the planet. That's how new this planet is of Neptune. That's why when you see the cheat sheet, you guys, and you see that we have planets that have multiple signs listed with them, that's why, because there was classical and now there's modern astrology, which we can assign signs to other planets now.
So Neptune, the little symbol for it, it totally looks like something that's from the sea.
Trident.
It's a trident.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a trident.
So it resembles a trident of the god Poseidon or Neptune, shown holding the crescent, which is the little crescent.
The crescent
Represents receptivity, and it's pointing upward, indicating spiritual receptivity.
spiritual planet, you guys.
And it's placed above the cross.
The
So
cross
as
of
Jamie's
matter.
explained, the cross of matter.
Mm-hmm.
It symbolizes the yearning of the soul to break free from restrictions and limitation of matter and reality. So this is the planet of spirituality and inspiration and dreams and psychic receptivity and illusion and confusion. Neptune brings compassion and mercy. The energy is about getting out of the way of our egos and our own importance.
Mm-hmm.
The more negative manifestations of Neptune include deception, trickery, deceit, guilt, and addiction, all dealing with feelings. So this
Yeah.
is a kind of a heavy, those are some deep, like our spiritual beings, like,
We're getting into the subconscious. So we were at the break free, rebel, find yourself, have new experiences. Now the next planet is all about, what did that teach us about ourselves? What did our intuition lead us to that now we are discovering things about ourselves personally? Do we feel guilt for leaving? There's not jealousy in here, but I can imagine there's jealousy watching other people leave. And these are feelings that are so deep within us. We often don't talk about them. I don't walk up to my mom and go, yeah, I was really jealous over that lady that got her coffee like 10 minutes before I did, or something crazy. You know, I couldn't think of a better situation. But it's when we have these deep feelings about stuff going on in the world, Neptune is the planet that really is trying to uncover that. It stores it. And then when you're ready to go and uncover it, Neptune is holding that for you. So wherever your Neptune is in your chart, that's what that's about.
Okay. And I want to pause for just a moment to address Natalie's comment that she doesn't see a planet associated with Cancer. I happen to know Cancer is the moon. The Cancer's the moon is what
That's right.
the planet associated with Cancer. So
Yeah. That's why you
Natalie,
don't see
that's
it.
why you're not seeing it, Natalie.
Yes.
Okay.
And if there's a Leo and you don't see Leo, it's because that's the sun.
Yeah.
So we didn't.
So I
do
was
sun
scrolling.
yet.
I was scrolling down the list. And I'm like, yep,
Yeah,
Cancer's
yeah.
definitely not on here.
Yeah.
It's the
That's right.
moon.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So retrogrades. Neptune retrogrades once a year for 4 to 6 months. Planetary ye of little faith.
Yeah. So when we're in retrograde of Neptune, what is that? That's a new planet.
That's your neptitude.
So when Neptune is in retrograde,
Oh my gosh, Natalie is a Cancer with the Leo cusp. How cool is that?
hey,
Sun and moon. Oh my
ooh,
gosh.
duality.
Wow. Love that. Anyway, so the energy of the retrograde
Yes.
is ye of little faith.
This is when you're going to lose your faith in things. This is when you're going to be like, the universe is playing tricks on me. That's not really true. I don't understand what's happening. I'm questioning everything about my intuition.
Well,
that I used
remember,
to know.
remember, this is the planet of spirituality. So
Yeah.
retrograde is now your questioning and your spiritual side is down. You lose faith in the universe, which results in being less
Intuition.
trustful.
Yes. Yeah.
Stoic, a person who can endure pain and hardship without showing their feelings or complaining. This is the perfect word for the energy of Neptune retrograde.
Boom.
Okay. All right. How to handle this energy? Take time out from the world.
Mm-hmm.
Go on a spiritual journey or retreat.
Mm-hmm.
Reflect inward. Get back into therapy or start therapy.
Yes.
Avoid big decisions because you may not be able to see clearly.
Yeah.
Neptune retrograde is a time where the fog of life will clear or where you will be able to see what you've been hiding and avoiding. Did I say that right?
Yeah. It's sort of like all right. So it's the opposite of what's happening. So say like when Neptune is direct, you're good. Your intuition's really good. But if it's not good, when retrograde comes in, all of a sudden your intuition is really clear and you're like, oh crap, I really have been hiding from this. I should probably seek help. And now the knowing is coming forward. So even though retrogrades normally bring in the unbalancing of the sign, sometimes they bring in the rebalancing of the sign. They expose you to things that make you deal with the stuff that needs to be dealt with in order to get you back on track with regular Neptune energy. So getting into therapy or understanding what you've been hiding will allow you to then become a better intuitive, not intuit, a better intuitive.
Well, intuitive is the same thing, but
Okay.
you're saying intuit, but it's intuit. Intuit.
Yeah, we're going to agree.
Okay, so if you were born under a retrograde, Jamie added some things, few little things in there for you. Please look at the sheet. We're going to move on now to Pluto.
This is
my planet, which was only discovered in 1930. Oh my gosh, how is that
It's not even 100 years old.
How is that even possible?
I mean, obviously it's more than 100 years old. It was born a long time ago, but we just discovered it. And the energies we've been assigning to it are less than 100 years old. This is why it gets into this very big picture stuff, because we've evolved so much from 4 to 6 1,000 years ago where we were just assigning
Hopefully.
shit like,
I hope so.
oh, you're this stage and that stage. Now it's bigger meanings. So cat with Pluto.
Pluto is the Roman god of the underworld. So
Just like
this rules Scorpio, so it makes perfect sense to me. Any other Scorpios on here will understand. It has 3 times the amount of water than Earth in ice, of course, because it's so far out, so far away from the sun. It was discovered in 1930, and it takes 248 years to orbit the sun. Knocked from the planet list in 2006. What does that mean?
Yeah, so technically Pluto is no longer a planet, which is BS. It is now just
I
known
call
as the
BS.
door.
Yeah.
Listen, for us, we have to make our own decisions about what we want to believe, not something that scientists say. They made a curriculum. There's 5 curriculums to being a planet. And one of them that Pluto does not fit in is it's cleared its own path and does not come in contact with other things. It does. It actually goes like switching modes with other dwarf planets. So because of that, since it hasn't cleared its path around the sun that we know of, because, okay, we discovered it less than 100 years ago and it takes 248 years to go around the sun. We don't know what it's doing. It got downgraded. So it got established as a planet in 1930 and downgraded in 2006.
I'm officially protesting.
You can use Pluto's energy and what we know about it and what we've assigned to it if you want to, or you can be like, that's iffy. I don't know. But this is what we have on once Pluto's energy was assigned. This was also the time, you guys, when Gerald Gardner was really coming back with witchcraft and bringing in paganism and old stuff and like trying to regrow.
There was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of occult things happening around that.
Oh, you're gonna see it's the occult planet
around that time. Yes. I remember reading about all of these things that were going on in society on the occult, in the occult field.
Yeah.
And this was before everybody were like, oh, occult, it's devil worship. It was just an interest. So that's
it was like herbalism. People didn't consider that demonic or devilish or bad.
Kind of like they didn't think that the Coke that they put in Coke was bad. But then they learned later that it was.
I mean, that's still up in the air, I think.
I know. We should put it back in there. It might make everybody in a better mood. Okay, so Pluto's symbol is interesting. So it's a little guy,
It's a little guy.
It looks like a little guy to me. He's holding up his hands. But what it is spirit, the circle with the crescent for receptivity, and the cross for matter. So it's the trine. Is it a trine? It's all 3. Spirit, matter.
Well, they all go through those things, but what it is you've got physical matter that is then trying to be receptive to spirit. So this is why it is the planet of the occult, because these are people who are really trying to tune into the universal message. They're really trying to get messages from the underworld, from the land beyond, from heaven, if you will, whatever you call the other place where the energies exist that we can't physically see. Pluto's glyph represents that exactly.
It suggests receptivity to super worlds or the super conscious placed above the physical world.
It's basically connecting with the divine energy, the God energy, the source, the one source, whatever you call it, that what we're all made of and what we all connect to is one. Pluto's symbol is meant to represent that exact thing, us getting back to the origin of where all of us come from in one place.
I want you to take a look.
Yes.
1 second. So I just want Jamie to see this question. Bree, we're going to try to answer your question when we get to the Q&A. Okay.
Yeah. We'll go over this.
Because I think that's a good question for that is, how do you call a planet in a spell? So we'll talk about that when we get to the Q&A. All right. So the energy around Pluto is the subconscious. Pluto rules all that is below the surface. This is also the energy of renewal and birth. Think of the phoenix. Just think of Scorpio. I mean, this is Scorpio, like burn to the ground, rise back up. It represents endings and new beginnings, as well as spiritual growth. With this energy, we search for truth and deeper meaning. Negative expressions of Pluto is an obsessive desire for power and control and general destructiveness. It retrogrades once a year for 5 to 6 months. During retrograde, okay, it's slow moving, so that's why it takes 248 years to transit through the sky
Around the sun.
around the sun. Yep. So when Pluto's in retrograde, how do you handle that energy? You let go of the control, of the need to control or the need to be in control. You trust the universe and give trust to others reasonably. You examine the role of power plays in your life and how you handle it.
Mhm.
You guys, I can't even tell you how much power is a huge thing in my life. And it's not that I want power, it's that I hate people having power over me. I've been fighting that authoritarian thing since I was really, really young. That hit me at a very young age, like age 11. And so I've always been very rebellious like that because I don't want anybody controlling me. So that it makes perfect sense to me, the energy of this planet and the negative, the negative side of it as well, because for me it was negative. But anyway, I examine the role power plays in your life and how you handle it. This is a perfect time for self-transformation, break habits, clear addictions or negative things. Pluto will have your back. So again, born under retrograde, please refer to our notes for tonight. And then do we want to talk about, do you want to talk about this?
No, that's in the notes as well.
So also in the notes is like, what's the deal with retrogrades? Everybody freaks out. Oh my God, it's Mars, Mercury's in retrograde. Not a time to freak out. It's just time to like pull back, maybe step back and, slow down. So, okay.
We have a little thing on retrogrades within the notes, just what's going on actually, like scientifically in the sky, why they are there, stuff like that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Really quick, you guys, for references, if you guys remember us mentioning this little calendar guide, this is the Llewellyn's Witch's Date Book for each year. Super simple. It's a little calendar with like, has like days of the week.
They come out with them every single year. You
Every
could probably
year in
buy
June.
2023 now.
No, in June.
Oh, June.
Every year in June they come out. But I was going to say this because every year what they publish in the very back is the entire list of the retrogrades for the year so that you can plan ahead. It's just a nice, neat little chart. This book has a lot of other information in it that's just really awesome. The first 30 pages are articles by other witches that they write about things that are, important for them that year, I guess. I don't really know how they choose the articles, but it's a great companion for any witch, especially starting out. It keeps things really simple and straightforward. So this is one place to find the retrogrades if you're interested or worried about them and you want to know when to expect stuff. The other thing about retrogrades, we're in a Pluto retrograde right now. Yay! And we go into Mercury retrograde tomorrow. Yay!
Oh my.
So
I just said, don't freak out.
No, there's no freaking out. There's slow down and think about it. That's it.
Well, so we're in Pluto retrograde right
Tomorrow.
now.
Yes.
Right now.
And
we've been in since like April 30th.
No,
right? Is that when it started?
26th or something. Yeah.
Right around there.
End of April.
Oh man, can I relate to that with what's going on in my life right now? Because I'm really trying to change some habits that I've had for a long time and let go of that control where I need to dictate things and determine how that, I
being the puppet master.
the puppet master.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Like I want to know how they're going to turn out. And I try to, twist and turn and do all this stuff. And you know what? It never works out for me. So, all right.
Because we can't control other people. We
That's
can only control
right.
ourselves.
That's right. And that's what I'm working on. So,
okay. So for Bree, I want to direct your attention to our quick little, it's not Excel. It's just
it's a spreadsheet. It's a Google Doc.
Yeah,
yes.
Google Doc spreadsheets. In it, the very last column is going to say spells to do for the different planetary energies. It's really long. I'm not going to try to zoom into everything, but how to use that. So now you'll be able to see each planet, spells you can do that are associated with this energy or things to work on. But how to use it, I want you to know that calling in a planetary energy within a spell is as simple as putting its glyph on something, a piece of paper, your own hand, your notebook, a candle, scratched into the ground, that sounds bad, drawn into the ground, carved into something.
Yeah.
It's the symbol itself of the planet holds the energy of the planet. It's not only witches that use those symbols. This is anybody who's in astronomy. these are real glyphs that are used throughout the scientific world. So they're not just for us, they're also for others. So that's one way to use it. You can do color associations. You can do herb associations. But the main part about calling in any energy into a spell or your workings is that you name it. That's it. Simple as that. I call this, I bring in this, I invite this. You know, I don't use the word summon because that sounds so corny to me. I'm a 90s kid. And, you know, as much as I love the movie The Craft, I'm not summoning shit. So I say use your natural language and don't think about it as something that's outside of yourself. All of these energies exist within us. It's just when we discover them, how much we express them, and what we do with them. So it already exists within you, the power or the energy of a Pluto, a Saturn, a Mercury. You just have to call it forward.
And I see how Bree the language that Bree uses, because she says, how do you call on a planet?
Yeah.
That's exactly what you do. You say, I call this energy to me.
I call this energy in. I call upon this energy. I bring this energy with me. So there is one big thing in spells. This is off of Planetary Energies, you guys, but one big thing with spells is the way that people direct energy into their spells. Either they believe it's in them and they call it forward, or they believe it's outside of them and they call it to them.
Invoke versus evoke.
Invoke versus evoke. Yes. So that is just a witch's prerogative. Whatever you think is right for you. There is no right or wrong way here. Our only thing is don't hurt yourself and don't hurt other people. So however you choose to call in an energy, call on an energy, bring out an energy, like the words should just feel natural to you. That's what I'm going to urge you to do. Find your, like, if you're going to talk to Pluto, like it's sitting right next to you as a being, how would you talk to Pluto? How would you talk to that energy that can hear you from across the universe? Use that really simple, direct language. Don't fluff it. Don't be like, you know, Shakespearean, oh, where art thou, Pluto type stuff that doesn't sound
rhyming.
natural.
You don't really have to.
You don't have to rhyme.
rhyme.
When you talk to an energy like a friend, when you bring in an energy or anything like a friend, like you're talking to your close friend, it's so much more authentic and you don't lose your vibration. Like your high vibration that you bring in as you talk to them is something that is familiar instead of something that is so weird and outside of yourself and like creepy. You're like, fear and any uncertainty lowers your vibration. The more confidence you have about the thing that you're talking to or about, that's a higher vibration.
Well, also the ease. So it's like the ease with which you speak. So if you're stumbling upon words or having to look at them like, what was that?
That's memorization.
You know, that's not the energy you want. You want the energy where it just kind of flows out of you. There's no right or wrong way to do this. The right way is your way, and how you communicate with the energy of the energies of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So
all of them, any of them,
any of them, planets and all. Okay.
I'm a star.
I'm sure that the universe understands your stutter.
Okay. I have a thing where I say words. I don't know what it's even called.
It's dyslexia.
I have dyslexia. So I'll say things like, you know, I don't know.
Oh my God. I can't even think of anything right now. And we do this.
I have to make a freaking video of it.
We both do the same thing. It's so funny.
I can't remember the last thing I said.
Oh
it's
my
all
God.
the time. I was going to say,
when she was little, she used to say pan shoe instead of shampoo. So the way she said shampoo was pan shoe.
Yeah. So
Pan shoe.
Pam shoe.
Pam shoe.
Pam shoe.
And Duke-Aid.
Well, instead of Kool-Aid. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that comes from either.
All right.
But
okay, you guys. So that wraps up our lesson. Yes.
For Planetary Energies, class 2.
Number 2.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us.
We'll see you next week, y'all.
See you next week. Thank you so much.